I just want
Is
to touch on assisted dying. I know you
mhm.
mentioned it briefly earlier,
Yeah.
but there is a lot more public discussion on it now. But without going
Yes.
too deeply into it
Yeah.
today, it's a
Yeah.
whole episode in itself, I think, is that. But what are
Hmm.
the sort of key ethical and practical questions families should understand when that topic arises,
Yes.
especially around dementia? Because it's
Yes. Well,
different, really, isn't it?
yeah. So the first thing to say is in the UK, um, well, I was going to say it's not that it's not available. There are two jurisdictions that have legalized it. So this is the Isle of Man,
Mhm.
which where it was legalized in February 2025, and Jersey, where it was just approved last month, but will be an 18-month implementation process. So
Yeah.
won't be available till 27 at August 27. Um, the key ethical issues are actually the same in pretty much in all countries. So of the countries in the world that have assisted dying, 8 of them do allow people with dementia to access it. So
Okay.
this is one of the things we've been looking at as to what are their requirements. But the issues in all countries and the eligibility, and it's the same with the, from what I understand of the Isle of Man and probably Jersey, is that people have to be reasonably in a foreseeable period towards at the end of life. So in a irreversible condition, and the end of life is reasonably foreseeable. So usually it's 6 months, but I noted in I think the Isle of Man for a neurodegenerative condition it can be with the last 12 months.
Okay.
But the other thing is people have to be able to give consent at the time. They have to have capacity at the time the procedure will be completed.
Hmm.
So that presents a challenge, as you can
Mm.
imagine, for people who are
Mm.
living with dementia. And this is the case in most of the countries that have legislation that does allow people with dementia to access it. No, not in all of them. But what that means is, as I'm sure you can understand, that somebody may feel this is something they want to explore. As I mean, in countries where it is allowed.
Yeah.
But then it presents a real dilemma because the point at which they still have capacity is likely when they're still quite well.
Yeah.
So this is a very challenging topic.
Mm.
Um, what one thing I would say though is in the countries that have a much longer experience, so particularly Belgium and the Netherlands, although Switzerland is actually the country that has had the longest legislation from the 1940s.
Oh wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah, but we're all familiar with Belgium and the Netherlands.
Mm.
The main sort of thing that seems to come out in the discussions we've had is it's like I was saying before about having discussion. It's about options. And so, the way that they handle the requests and the process in those two countries, for instance, is they can keep track of people who make a request versus, sorry, who file the papers, who put in, to get permission, but then
Mm.
do or don't proceed. And this is not just related to dementia. And there is quite a lot of evidence that for some people, knowing this is there, knowing this is an option, is really helpful for them for their planning, their decision making, their adapting to this condition, whether it's dementia or something else.
Mhm.
And I think if it's seen in that way, and obviously there are people who have very strong views who are very opposed globally, not just
Mhm.
here, and there are other people who see it as one choice that people might wish to have. They may never exercise that choice,
Mhm.
but knowing it's there gives people some sort of feeling of control. So I think it's one of those things that again people can be very emotional about.